Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Photography Chat, Season 2, Episode 45 with Chris Elvis Koehn. We'll get him in the chat here momentarily and then we'll get kicked off. I hope everyone has been having a good week and staying safe out there. It's been kind of weird times here in Canada. And here's Chris. Let's get him on here. Hey kid, I'm a computer.
Oh, yeah, thank you, Jack Nicholson. I'll talk to you later.
Yeah, whatever.
Sorry, I was just on the phone.
Yeah, with Jack. Was that your Chevy Chase impersonation that you were doing there? Doctor?
Yeah. Come on. I'm just trying to make sure that I'm at tab.
Uh-oh.
Whatever. If we start to flake out, then I'll have to switch to my hotspot because of my crazy lame internet in this town. Anyway, I can hear you good. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're coming in loud and clear with your fancy fucking headphones and your super sensual boom mic that no one can see.
It's the space station, kids.
You gotta do. No, when you get your face, you gotta do the thing like in a world.
Sorry, that was too much. In a world where white men have podcasts. Sorry.
I'm not white though.
Yeah, but like the funny thing is I've got all this recording equipment and no podcast anymore.
Well, you have
so
a
it's
podcast.
just yeah, I know, but I know so many middle-aged dudes like me and they've got like all this stuff and it's like I just need to do this and then I'll have my podcast or my YouTube channel or my photo stream or whatever. So you don't need to just do it. Just make some stuff, like even if it's garbage. I don't know.
No,
or don't. Who cares?
Yeah, but I want to be like Peter McKinnon.
Strongbow, let's talk.
There you go. Strongbow, let's talk. Is that like a mental health thing?
Oh yeah, that's big time.
Why don't you, give a little introduction yourself to the people there, because I wrote kind of a shitty intro for you on my Instagrams. You didn't send a blurb in, so.
No, it was a good intro.
Yeah.
I don't know how to describe myself because everything's changed over the last few years. This COVID thing, I was really getting back into media and stuff like that. I used to be a newspaper reporter, if anybody cares, and shot a heck of a lot of photos for that. Excuse me. And that was really cool to see, as I'm already burping because I'm like 4 drinks in. But it was really cool to like see your photos in the national papers and stuff like that. But my goodness, I got so sick of shooting photos. So just when I started really ramping up to shoot photos again in like 2019.
Yeah.
What happens in the new year 2020? Just whatever. It was just too much. So I've been like, I've got all this film and everything just doing nothing. And it's like, oh man. Anyway, so.
Film, and I'm just like, what the shit, dog? Yeah, make something with it.
I've got so many things. Don't fall down. Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know how to describe myself. I did a lot of video work. Like I said, I used to be a journalist. I'm just finding enjoyment with photography again because Merlin keeps sending me spiffy things like this.
That is a good one. I like that.
This is a good one. And then, yeah, that's actually one of my favorite cameras. I'm just trying to get used to it more now. So, but
great camera.
I don't know why my iPad is doing you haven't used your iPad for 10 seconds and dimming the screen,
Oh, that's weird. I mean, you totally forgot about how you were a top tier call star at Converge's.
Oh, that's right. I still have that. I still have that plaque. The 2 plaques, the employee of the month, and the Roadrunner Values Certificate.
You got Employee of the Month there.
You know you're in an alternate timeline when.
What was the name of that fucking kid that we like? He was.
Hang on, I'm pouring more
jerking off
alcohol
about
into
his
this.
Mac all the time. Oh, you there?
Yep, still here. Can you hear me?
What's the name of that kid that like was going off about how his mom worked for the school and he was gonna get, education pricing on a MacBook and he's gonna be so cool because he's gonna have a MacBook, and then he brought it there all the time and he like flaunt his MacBook and then we like hit it.
Yeah, didn't we hide it on him?
We did, and he like epically lost his shit.
Yeah, well, that's what happens when you tie your whole life to a freaking object.
Yeah, was it
Right.
Tyrone? That was it. Right?
That sounds right. They're all so forgettable. Basically, what I've done with those guys is I've created a mishmash of all their personalities into one super unlikable dork. So anyway, this is what I just made here.
Oh, it looks delicious.
It is delicious.
So,
only thing is you can't have a mustache when you do it. So okay, yeah.
I get shit in my mustache beard thing all the time. Now it's like,
oh, look at this, a chicken wing.
Oh yeah, well it's like it's so long now that like foodstuffs, like if I'm eating something and I'm not paying attention, it's just like the beard's like, I want something too, and it's like, no, you can't, you don't eat your fucking beard.
And then you don't notice that till you dropped your date off at home.
Yeah.
And then you see a piece of like shawarma or something, and
no, yeah.
Whatever. Yeah. So yeah, we were tech support losers, and that, if anything, if you need motivation to do something in life, go answer phone calls for people whose internet is busted.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you do not leave that and run away screaming and make something of yourself, I don't know what to say. I don't.
They actually have a formula there. So they expect 80% attrition within, I think it's like 6 months. And it's like 50% within 3. And then if someone makes it past 9 months, they're basically a lifer.
Their management.
Yeah. It's a straight shooter with upper management potential. I made it 9 months, but I only stayed that long because I needed to get my wisdom teeth out, so I kept them for my benefits. But I was gone for like a month and a half because they put me through anger management because I tried to hurl one of those like fucking 20-inch LCD, like 20-inch CRT fucking monitors, because this customer just cheesed me off so bad, and like I think I was going through some like girlfriend shit or something too. And like,
you just didn't have to be going through anything to be cheesed off by those idiots. And anyway,
I ended up just like hulking out and just grabbing my monitors like, and I was holding it up. And my team lead Jill comes over and she's like, Merlin, put it down. I'm like, no, I'm gonna smash it. And she's like, no smash.
Urge to kill fading.
Yeah. And she's like, I'm putting you off work for a little bit and we're gonna send you to anger management. And I was just like, I'm not angry at all. I don't know. And then when I quit, it was super hilarious because like I came in right after my wisdom teeth surgery, so like my face was still all like fucking swole up. I couldn't talk or anything, and so I wrote cards out, and I came in. I was like, "Hi Jill, hope you're having an okay day. I quit." She's like, "Are you fucking serious?" I'm like,
As you reveal your T-shirt, I'm only here for the dental.
Basically, yeah.
Oh my god! Yeah, we've had some fun jobs together. Simply Computing.
Oh man, well, the story in there because of the time Sluggo came in and you had to apologize to him for losing all of his photos. And
for the guy in the back losing all of his photos and video.
Yeah,
he spent like almost 10 grand on a super spec'd out Mac tower at the time or whatever, and got it transferred over from his iMac or something. And the guys were like, cool, and just basically wiped everything and didn't give him anything but an excuse, like, sorry, nothing we can do, you know, that having to tell him that, like, no, here's your shirt, boss, I leave.
And so for context of why it was like a weird thing, so I mentioned it in the story when we brought it up now. So Sluggo is this like OG skateboarder from Vancouver, who like started the Red Dragons with his brother and like Colin McKay and some other friends. And he's a pretty intimidating dude. Like, you know, he's
a brick.
Like, he's got to be like in his like fucking 50s by now or something. But like, I wouldn't fuck with that guy. Like,
he was solid. That guy. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So it's like, you know, and from it's a go ahead.
Oh yeah, you know, being from Kamloops, we worshipped those RDS guys. You know, because we'd run into them in Vancouver and everything like that, or you know, once in a while they'd come up to Kamloops or something and just, oh my gosh, these guys are amazing. And then suddenly they're real big skate personalities, and then they tell me I got to tell one of my heroes that they screwed up his computer, deleted all his stuff, and there's nothing. They're not even going to give him like a discount on his new computer. Yeah. It was just like, forget it. And
it's such a shit show.
No, I felt so bad.
I would have felt terrible, and also like, you know, shitting my pants. Like, that would have been a brown pants day to like be like,
I quit.
Hi, Mr. Sluggo. We deleted all of your stuff.
Yeah. That just imagine working at a film lab and, you know, somebody that you really look up to who's like a famous Magnum photographer or something comes in, and for whatever reason he's using your film lab, and they come in and you've like thrown their film away and there's just no record of it at all, and you just like it's just, I don't know, it made me quit. I couldn't do that job with that. I felt bad for everybody who had to stay for that job.
I felt bad that you had to deal with Winston's breath all the time. I mean, that dude like brush his teeth or something. But that was a fucked up place, and then you ended up getting into the journalism stuff. But before all of that, because like I remember when you were in Kamloops when I first met you, and we had a LAN party, which, you know, for the younger folk out there, back in the day when we wanted to play video games with each other, we'd pick up our computers and bring them on over to someone's house. And this was before LCD panels were a thing. I remember there was one dude that had an LCD panel, and we're like, holy shit, that dude's so rich.
Yeah, he was a boss. But we'd all show up and, you know, load punch cards into our computers. No.
And then we would all freaking trail together. Yeah.
The funnest thing about the LAN party is just trying to get everybody connected. Okay, you connected? Yeah, no, yeah, no, yeah, no, damn it, whatever.
Yeah, it's like, you only have a 10 megabit thing. Who has the 100 meg one? You know, because this was before gigabit internet. You know, it's like,
you're serving. Yeah. No, it's crazy. I miss like gaming for some reason. Just remember, it used to be I think they called it couch gaming.
Yeah,
you'd hang out on a couch, or LAN party. You know, you'd hang out together. And now gaming's just, okay, everybody retreat to your little cave, get up, you know, and
I like the idea of LAN parties, because it's like, yeah, you're sitting at your little workstation and shit, but like, I mean, you're also at someone's house and you were having an actual party, and so you'd have like snacks, and you'd like, you know, there'd break time like between like campaigns and shit like that, where you go have some beers or drinks or food or whatever, and like there was a bit more community to it. Like, even though you were still isolated in your own little workstation, you were all in the same place, and you were all, because you could rib each other too. Like, you know, it's not just through the headset. Like, you know, you could like throw shit at people, and like, you know, it was more fun. What's that guy Guavo?
Guavo.
The guy, he's like, time for some Guavo, and I'm like, what is it? That's not a catchphrase.
He's just making stuff up, trying to be cool.
Yeah.
I don't know. No, it's weird how everything's split and everybody does stuff from their own place now. And then COVID is like, oh, I see this happening in gaming and everything else. Let's make this a life thing. And now everybody has been stuck in their little caves. And this is like,
it's hard.
Being half introvert or whatever. I hate that term now because everybody thinks I'm such an introvert because I like to sit and curl up with a book now and then. But
Nothing like curling up with a book.
you know, it's like I kind of want to be able to get out and hang out with people and do photography or something, or go to like a convention and stuff like that. Or, you know, right before the whole COVID thing was, I met 3 or 4 really interesting landscape photographers, and we were starting to hang out, and we had plans to go do some more stuff. And then suddenly everybody's freaked out and indoors and that kind of thing. But when the comet came around in about 4 or 5 months after the start of COVID, I remember just forcing myself outdoors, you know, but I was like 10 feet away from people, you know, and it was, I don't know, very interesting. I just want to get back to things, because you got me all excited about stuff like Policon and some other things going on. And, you know, Brian and you would harass me to get my passport, and I'd love to go down and visit Brian and some of those guys. You know?
Yeah, passport. Chris needs his passport.
Well, I live near the Montana border now, so I got to get my passport so I can get deliveries sent to the PO box just next to the border, so I don't have to pay $100 shipping. Yeah. What's that?
You get that cheap gas for that tank van of yours.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny, I have like this little gas sipper and a giant van.
Yeah. But I was going to say, though, like in the LAN party days, though, I remember that you were already into video stuff. And got me into
I had a video production business.
Yeah, and you got me into video stuff, and we would make those stupid, shitty little...
Yeah, we made like original internet content.
We did.
I remember having to serve those videos on, like, we made stuff before YouTube.
Yeah. And
dinky little videos.
I had a web server that, because I lived at home with my parents when I knew you. I was like, we need to have Shaw internet because Telus won't let me have a web server, so we need to have the Shaw internet so that I can serve up.
Shaw doesn't block 1080, port 1080.
Yeah, Shaw didn't block the web, so we would make our stupid little web videos.
I still have some of those somewhere. I think you do too.
Oh, I absolutely have them. They're terrible, but I love them so much.
I honestly think the stuff like... remember we wandered around with flashcards of internet acronyms?
the wandering around...
That was gold.
One. That one was great. Revenge of the Nerd.
Thanks, Jeffrey.
That was a funny one. I enjoyed the... Halo 2 or whatever?
Yeah, we went to the midnight lineups for stuff. We went to... I had a video from the Boxing Day sale lineup at Future Store or whatever it was called. Was it called Future Store? Future Shop.
Future Shop.
Which became all part of Best Buy or something. But yeah, we were doing all those kind of things way before YouTube. And I had a Blogspot page that would link to every video hosted on my own web server, because I had like something like GoDaddy or whatever. And it would link to that stuff. And in order for it to look like there was a player, I would take a screenshot of the QuickTime window and post it as an image. And if you clicked it, it would link to the video back on the web server. And then it would open up in one of those blank gray pages with the video in the middle. Like, to
make mine easier, I encoded all of them in Real Player, because like Real Player was like the embedded video shit back then.
Probably still buffering.
Yeah, the gladiator wheel is just kind of like...
Real Player buffering.
Yeah, but so I was always curious though. I never asked you, like, how did you get into the video stuff, like, before I met you? Because your video stuff and us doing those, you know, silly videos around cam loops and shit, that sort of laid some foundation for me to get into like the photographic shit that I do now. So it's like, in a way, this is your fault right now.
I'll take a little bit of the blame for that. But,
but how did you get your start?
You were into stuff too. What I did is I was shooting. My first camera was actually my wife's. She had a Pentax SPO, and I can't remember the model, but it actually, I remember the photos coming out of it were so nice and crisp. And I was just using like whatever Fuji stuff you'd get at Costco. And so it was probably like some kind of Superior or something like that. Whatever you could get, like you get a cheap 8-pack of it or whatever. And then I really liked I still have some of those prints from that camera that I really like. And I just remember really liking some of those shots. And I was like, I bet you SLR would just blow these out of the water and then I'll be legit. And I thought it was so cool. So I got a Maxim 5 Minolta camera.
Oh, so you started in the Minolta gang when you started?
Yeah, so my first real SLR was a Minolta. And as things were going digital shortly after I bought that, like there was that Kodak that you had, the DCS.
Yeah.
That was like $25,000. I was like, there's no way I'm getting that. But the second Minolta comes out with a digital SLR, I'm using it because like I was so cheap. I wanted my $100 lens to be able to be used on it. But you know, it's like anyway. This is what these are broke thoughts, right? So, and they're legit, fair enough. But so I waited forever. Konica Minolta merged. And they had talked about this Maxim 9 digital. And this is 2004, I think, maybe, or something. And they were talking about in-body stabilization, like the first camera with that. I thought that was so cool. But anyway, I ended up not waiting because things just took forever. The Maxim lineup wasn't going to be made digital soon enough. You pointed me at that Bill guy at that store. Green. And pointed me toward Nikon.
Wait, just pause for a second.
Or Nikon.
Andre's Audiotronic. Yeah.
Audiotronic is such a cool word. It's so I don't know. It's like it's got much branding potential. Sure. Shut up and have a drink, Chris.
You know what I miss though? Today's world has a major void of stores that were like blank stereo and video, or blank audio and video.
Still got Visions.
Visions can suck,
if you can believe it. But they've expanded into so much other crap too. But yeah, so I
anyways, Bill, yeah.
I got that camera somewhere around, I think it was like right as soon as it was released. So whenever the D70 was released, that's when I got it.
Well,
and
yeah,
it was
you got the D70, and then I was like, fuck, I want a D70 too, because like, you know, it
was a good camera. It was really good. The only other camera like it was the Rebel, but I think the D70 was better. It just it had the ergonomics.
Well, the ergonomics, but also the lens compatibility, because the first digital Rebels, you had to have like the specific crop lenses.
Well, you couldn't use FD, and
you couldn't use FD, and you couldn't use some of the EOS lenses either.
And with Nikon, you could use everything they had back into like the 70s or whatever and all that. Yeah. Which was kind of cool because the first news gig I had, I was able to use a whole bunch of really old Nikon lenses. And they were all, you know, they had that little notch on the top. I can't remember what that was for, the little metal flange that on the top of the lens there.
Flange. It was it's a coupler for the aperture ring. So on older cameras, for the older Nikon cameras to know where the aperture is, that little flange.
Gotcha.
Something, and it would let the camera know what.
Hey, Alan. So yeah, so the old D70 was really great. The reason I totally stuck with Nikon, whatever, was it had the thumb dial and the finger dial, whereas a lot of the cheaper, more affordable Canons had just the front dial, and you use this janky roller spinner dial in the back.
Well,
I always wanted control of.
It was that one that was on top, so it's like you had to.
Yeah, it's on top. It was still a front like trigger finger, shutter finger dial. Right. But yeah, okay, top. But yeah. I always liked being, because I shot manual almost from the beginning. That doesn't make me cool. It's just that's how I got used to stuff. So I like being able to do shutter speed and aperture from both my fingers. Whereas having to use the aperture on the Canon, you had to set that spin dial to do it or something, or you could set the front dial to do it, but you couldn't have both that easily. And I found that just amazing in a cheap camera at the time. I mean, now you can get them in all sorts of stuff, but I think still the cheap Rebels and stuff, you don't get that anyway. But yeah, so I started to build up a bit of a Nikon lens collection, and that was that stuff was my first news camera stuff, right? So after that, I got a D2H, which was an amazing camera. But somewhere in there, probably just a little bit before that, I got a little camcorder, a Canon ZR-10, and I was blown away how tiny this thing was. It was a mini DV camera with a pretty nice little picture, and it firewired to my little iBook that I had, which was just insane. And I made a couple little home movies of Isabel, who was our new kid, and Jimmy, our baby at the time. So who knew 6 more kids would come along? But it was so easy to make stuff with the MacBook or the iBook or whatever it was at the time, and iMovie, and I just thought that was super cool. So people were always asking us to do, oh, bring your camera to the wedding, or bring your camera to this, bring your camera to that. So I started shooting wedding videos, and my God, I hated doing that. I like doing all the other quirky stuff before, like the hanging out with the bachelors or something like that, or just whatever. And then when I was starting to do news, just before I started to do news, I had this video
was that Pablo
production company. What's that, sorry?
I was just saying hi to Pablo.
Oh, hello, Pablo Z74. So I was making videos I was also making commercial videos because businesses wanted stuff. So did organizations, like we did some local charity kind of stuff. And then I started making a video blog somewhere around 2003. I think it was 2003, 2004. That's when we started making our goofy movies. Video blogs took off in Boxing Day or December 26, 2004, I think, when that tsunami hit in Indonesia. And that was one of the first kind of big world catastrophe events where people had video capable devices with them and were capturing it en masse and being able to put it up to the internet. And I think that was still before YouTube. So suddenly people I knew in the video blogging community were getting contacted by New York Times, or getting contacted by like Time Magazine and all these other, and it was just such a boom all of a sudden. And then YouTube dropped and people were able to put videos on there. So I'd been making videos for all this time, and I had this like $5,000 DVX-100 camera by then at the time, which was like a independent documentary camera darling at the time. Like, it was a really good camera. And I brought it in with me, and I was doing news. I remember I just started doing all sorts of interesting things that weren't the boring commercial paid stuff. It was more to further my news career. Like, I did some stuff that like the Tyee blasted out, which is like just that kind of cool BC news website and stuff like that. A bunch of other things too. And then I ended up kind of leaving that behind as I got stuck more in print. You know, I just started to do more and more newspaper stuff, became editor at a paper, and that almost killed me because it was just me by myself pretty much in one paper. And then when I got into daily news, I actually started to try to incorporate video into that. And this is before video was really a thing for newspapers, aside from like the multimedia stuff you'd see at the bigger outlets like New York Times and stuff. And, you know, got us some nominations and some awards because we were actually putting video on our really clunky CMS, our clunky news portal. But yeah, so I just ended up that way. And then the dream died somewhere around 2012. That's when I left news. Well, I wasn't making any money doing news, so I became an electrician. And then I was too busy doing electrician stuff that I couldn't even do anything creative or fun. But that actually turned out to be a good thing because I needed a few years off. I needed a few years off of anything like staring at computers doing video or photo editing and stuff like that, or even blogging and stuff like that, because I was just so burnt out from the news cycle. So yeah, and then like I said, I started to really get back into it a few years ago, and then right before COVID. So anyway, that's my thing. But when I started to get back into it, it was really cool. Like I was getting all sorts of tester gear from Panasonic and JVC and Sigma and stuff like that. It was kind of fun, and I was like, geez, I should almost do like video reviews of this stuff. And they were kind of hoping I would. And I was like, no, I'm not Peter McKinnon. So I started writing for some websites like Petapixel and this digital filmmaker website and some other stuff. And I
I'd be like, what's up, guys?
Yeah. What's up? Here's me slow-mo drinking beer.
Well, that's how a cinematographer.
What's up?
Yeah, watch a cinematographer drink beer.
What? Yeah. Cinematographer reacts to beer.
How a
filmmaker reacts to, but I mean, and whatever, good for them. I'm happy that those kind of people can make their living doing that. But it is such a sausage fest. Let's be real. It is a bro down.
It isn't it?
It is. It's gross. It's just too much. If I see one more dude in a flat brim hat and a gimbal ninja walking downtown,
What's up, guys?
Get your gimbal.
I don't have a gimbal.
Well, okay, then you're allowed to have the flat brim hat.
I can point my digital rangefinder at you instead. How about that?
Here, let me point my digital. Oh, yeah, rookie mistake. Hello, everybody. This isn't going to take a picture. Alan, you've got that 10 trees hat. You should make that a flat brim hat. Let's see. Here we go. Here's my old man Milwaukee hat. There we go.
You almost look like Steve Buscemi from that. Like, hello, fellow students.
Hey, fellow kids. Let's see. I should load something into this, and then here we go. Let's crack some Polaroid.
I've fallen down this Fuji rabbit hole partially because of Big Head Taco and my friend Clint, who runs Safe Lab, and it's made me need to eat a bunch of crow because of how much I shit on Fuji all the time.
I know. I didn't want to say anything, but I'm glad you're opening up about it.
It's okay. Like
Fuji's great. Just you don't have to forgive them for canceling some of those film stocks, but you can move on a little bit.
I would like. Fuji makes great cameras. I wouldn't necessarily call them great. But yeah,
their digitals are bonkers, man.
Yeah, like I picked up an X Pro 2 when I was in Toronto last week, and man, I've really been liking it. Like I had the XT2 before, and the XT2 really made me fall in love with their lenses and the camera system. Even though the XT2 and the X Pro 2 are effectively the same camera, they're very different in how they behave. Like are you gonna do it? The digital range.
Get over there.
Like it's in their glass is like.
Their lenses are really nice.
I've been really blown away by their lenses. Like it's. My favorite right now, and it's like it lives on my camera most of the time, is the 56 1.2.
Nice.
It's like an 85mm equivalent.
Yeah.
It's a bit long for street photography, but like when it hits, it's just so nice. Like it's I've learned to live. What's that?
What do you consider long? What makes something long for street photography? What do you? Because I know there's like the ideal focal lengths, that'll frame something across the street nicely or right in front of you on the sidewalk. But
Well, like if I want to get something that would fit in like a 50 mil, I have to like stand a lot farther back with it.
yeah.
But then like the 35 f2 behaves completely different than this, and so it's just like
So the
that's the most
35 on that.
yeah the third so the
So like a
35
50-ish.
yeah, so it's like the 50ish equivalent. But then I was talking to someone recently, they're like, well, you should really try the 23 with it because that'll be more like a 30, 32, 35
Yeah.
equivalent, which they were like for street, that's like the ideal one for the X Pro 2. I tried the 23 with the XT2 and I didn't really like it. But
Was it
maybe I'll
just too wide or what?
it just I didn't really it wasn't that it was too wide. I just there wasn't it didn't really click with me.
I
Like
get
this
it. The personality of it just didn't.
yeah, like this 5612, it just continually blows my fucking mind when I use it. Um so much so that it's like even though it's a pain in the ass to work with sometimes for like how I like to shoot, I'm dealing with that because like when I do get something that works with it, I'm just like, okay, that was worth it. But it's a very different experience from like my like when I shoot film. Um, I mean, it's been I don't shoot as much, so it's like my percentage is kind of shit now. But like I was like pretty close to where I was like I was usually happy with like upwards of like 85-90% of the roll when I would shoot a roll of
Sorry,
film.
I'm still paying attention. I'm just trying to find one of your recent photos.
Um,
So with that lens, your keeper rate or whatever you want to call it is a little less, but the ones
well,
you do get are really good.
but my keeper rate on this is higher than it is with the 35 f2
Okay.
because like a lot of this like it's what is it with the 35 f2 the pictures don't feel as alive. They're the pictures from the 5612 they feel more vibrant. They feel like there's
Is
something
it because of the separation of the subject and background a bit more, or what?
I think maybe it's part of that because like one of the things that I've really been liking about the X system is I'm a super fucking lazy. So the vast majority of the time I have it on auto shutter, auto ISO, and then just fucking crank the bitch wide open. So when I'm shooting this camera most of the time, I'm just shooting it wide open, even like during the daytime. But I do use the exposure comp dial a lot. So it's like if it's looking a little hot in there, I'll dial it back or dial it forward. But that's really all I use on the camera for the most part, unless it's way too bright, and then I'll like pull
Well,
it.
are you trying to get a blurred person walking, or who cares what the shutter speed does? You know, as long as you can
Well,
maintain your aperture and ISO.
I don't like some. It depends. Like sometimes I like the blurred person, but
But
yeah,
then
I'm just a really
you can mess with the shutter speed if you want that. Otherwise,
yeah.
just use the
But like my friend
exposure
Clint
comp.
who owns Space Lab, he loaned me the Leica M3 a few months back when I moved out here, and I never really understood Leicas until I started using one. And now I kind of get it. I understand why people get these. And there was a shot that I did recently. It was the last set of black and whites with mocha. Um,
What was that, the one with the parking sign and the guy with the Scully? Is that Mocha? That looks like
yeah,
Mocha.
that's mocha only. Yeah, who's
That's a stonking shot.
if you're not
That's
familiar with him and
fantastic.
you like rap music, check out Mocha Only. He's got Martian Christmas, his latest kind of Christmassy album that comes out every year. He releases a version of it. It's gonna be dropping December 10th, so look out for Martian Christmas. But yeah,
I
I love
really
it.
like that photo. I really like that photo.
It's
And that was that
I
with the Leica?
that was with the Leica, yeah, and
Oh,
that was with a Summicron
grr.
F2. Yeah, and it's just like, and The thing that I've also kind of found, like using the Leica, I don't meter as much anymore now. I kind of just guess, where I'm just like, yeah, I think maybe like I could do this at like 4 and a 60th. Whatever. That seems like it'll probably work. So I don't even know what I shot this at because I just fucking guessed, and it kind of came out nice. And there's one where he's already got the smoke in, and it's just like all still. But I kind of like the one where it's like,
I like the movement.
yeah, it because if the fucking cars didn't look so modern, this could have been like, Vancouver from like the 40s or
I know.
50s.
Look at those two people in the back.
Yeah,
One of them looks almost 60s.
yeah. And there was like a shot I did with the XT2 in color of him in the same scene. So it's like, when he was having the smoke, I shot him with the Leica and with the Fuji. And when I posted that one, it was a color one. People were like, "This has got like a mad Fred Herzog vibe to it," which really fucking flattered me because I don't think my photos are really that great. Um,
They're pretty good, I'd say. I I mean, you blast out a lot of photos, but it doesn't take me long to scroll down and go and take another look, right? You know, so going down from that mocha shot, there's some interesting stuff there, but you have this one shot of black and white Toronto street scene that just it's kind of dark, but then goes in. There's just more and more streetlights as you go down the street. I love that.
oh yeah, so that was with the X Pro 2. I was walking back from Mr. Tonkatsu on Young, and I got my first ever cheese stuffed tonkatsu, which is fucking amazing. If they take like it's like a chicken thing, and then they like sandwich this chicken with cheese, and then they bread it and deep fry it, and then put it on like rice with curry. It was fucking amazing. But
Seems
as walking,
legit.
yeah, it was good. I was walking back to my hotel, which is the courtyard, just in the corner there of that shot down Young, and it's like it came out a little blurry because I'm still like, this was like day 2 or 3 with this camera, so I'm still getting used to like how focus works and like getting it set up to where like, if I'd shot this with the XT2, it
I
wouldn't
think
have
it'd be
been,
too crisp.
maybe like it wouldn't have been as blurry, like because I got some shake in there, but then I also kind of like that it's like a little blurry and kind of a little out of focus, and it's not
The
like perfect.
That's a problem with a lot of photos today is there's no there's no character. Like you see a photo and it's tack sharp and there's some interesting colors and there's a bit of interesting composition, but
Yeah.
it's just illustrative. When the more crazy sharp and all that an image looks, it just feels more of an illustration.
Well, and that's why I really like that one of Mocha where he's smoking, and even like because I post in threes all the time because I just am weird that way.
You
But
just like to have a flat top or flat bottom of your feed or something. What
well, it started
can't
as
have?
like I wasn't shooting much black and white, and so I wanted to challenge myself to post more black and white. So I was like shooting more black and white. Um, and the only way I figured to do that was like I do an alternating, like one day I'll do three color, the next day I'll do three black and white. And when I
Hmm.
started doing that, I was like, I don't have enough fucking black and white to keep up with this, so I need to start shooting more black and white. But I like the three that I did of Mocha because we're the two he's in, and then one's just like a background scene. But
Yeah,
with the Leica, um, it's not super tack sharp. Like it's got some softness to it. Because like I was just doing the rangefinder walking around. Like I wasn't really being like super keen on focus, but um, it's just the film stock I used was really nice too. Is this Rolly 640 ISO black and white for it's the Pollen Reinhold stuff that's out right now. It's like
oh yeah, yeah.
$20 for two rolls, It's
That's not
the
bad.
100th anniversary edition, and it's a really fucking good film. I've been using it like most of my black and white film shots, like the last few months have been with this film, just because it's so affordable, and it's nice to have that extra little bit of oomph there with the 640 ISO, because it's a nice kind of bump from the 400. And it also, because I'm guessing my metering most of the time, it gives me a little bit of like wiggle room there because it's a bit more sensitive.
Well, you still have some details in that the revolving restaurant there too, in that pic. So it's like
Yeah,
640 isn't too much, you know.
yeah, it's not
It
bad.
I don't know, it worked.
But I just kind of like that look of like,
Hmm.
you know,
I
that
love
one
the
shot.
motion.
Yeah, the one shot where he's smoking, but it's like I love the motion, and I love that like the background is not completely obfuscated. Like the color shot that I did of him with the Fuji and the 56-1.2, he's like fucking just pencil sharp. He's just like totally there. But then the background is completely obliterated with bokeh, and it's beautiful. I like it, but I kind of like this Leica shot a bit more because the detail is like it's hazy enough that it doesn't take away from your focus, but it's still there to tell part of the story, and I kind of dig that.
It's not as distracting.
Yeah,
Like your subject is pretty clear. It looks
well, no,
like your subject is doing something, which is cool.
yeah,
And all
maybe
the rest of it is just a nice, interesting balance to the shot.
you
Whereas,
should check.
if that had been some crazy, like, ultra crisp shot, like everything's just crazy detailed. Yeah, it's just save that for the landscapes, Save
Yeah,
that ultra crisp sharpness for the landscapes, because in this you've got all the detail you need here. And the grain doesn't muddy anything. In fact, the grain
no.
makes the background too. Like
Well,
look at that
the
motif on the parkade building there, and the grain turns it into from boring into something cool.
yeah, and that's why I've really been liking the Paul and Reinhold is like it's got a nice grain structure to it. I've been I've shot like a couple dozen rolls of it now in
Hundreds
different
of dollars later.
dude. I
Alan, this
started.
guy who's in here, I've known him for a few years now, like quite a long time now. Um, he's been shooting. He's in Thailand. He moved to Thailand, and he's been shooting
Oh
a
wow.
ton of color. And honestly, Alan, your color shots were kind of cool, but they were more illustrative. The second you started dropping some of your black and whites, there was more something to them that hard to describe. Some people might call it story or whatever. I don't call it that because whatever. Um,
Because you're not that
there's
pretentious.
just something to it though that yeah, your black and whites, Alan, um, are just more evocative. I actually kind of feel something when I look at them. When I look at some of the other color stuff you do, nothing against it. Just when I look at color stuff these days, it seems like, oh, I'm looking at Wikipedia about whatever that subject is or something, right? Like,
Okay, so let's see if this will work. So this is from that roll that I shot with Mocha. Um, this was a decal like for Indigenous Day. That's cat. Um, so it's just at the vag there. But I just really like how that film turns out, and this is all with a Leica, and like the way it catches like the emotion of things. Like it,
she's just about to look annoyed, so you just lucked out with that shot.
I just lucked out because it could
You
have
got her
been
the split second before she looks annoyed at you.
I like
That one's
these
kind of
people
neat.
huddled up there. I like that. Um, but then where is it? Yeah, like I like how it works for people shots too. Like it's got like a cool look to the grain, and then like that Summicron is such a the Summicron is a really nice lens for like shooting people with. That's one of the Instagram photos there. Or no, so that was one that didn't make it to Instagram because I didn't like how the car was in there.
Hmm.
Um, one that went on Instagram is a bit more open. It was him to the side. And then this one, I can't remember what he was looking at there, but like I sort of like this one. This one almost made the cut to get posted.
Hmm.
But I was just like, nah, I don't really like it. It's interesting. You could tell there's a story there, but yeah, maybe another time. And then he
That
pointed
one's
this one
kind of
out.
neat.
I took this shot because he was like, "Yo, look at those birds up there," and there's one like flying away on the corner. Um, and then that was the one where he
That one's
shot
okay too, but that movement in the other one is best, especially in
the
the two
movement.
people in the background.
Well, in the color one that I posted with the Fuji has him smoking, so I was like, well, I don't need two of him smoking, so I did
Hmm.
the one with motion, and it's a bit more of a story. Feels like there's a story there. But like, yeah, that film, like that Rolly Paul and Reinhold. Yeah, this is Morgan Turner. I interviewed him a while back. We had some lunch at Helen's Diner, which if you're ever in Vancouver and you
Yeah,
want
that's
a
on King Edward and Maine, right?
King and Ed, King Ed and Maine,
Yeah.
right on the corner
I
there
used to
across
work
from.
right next to it.
And that's my homie Etienne. He's a
That
diver.
almost looks like Alan, except with a darker beard. The
You,
guy that down there talking about alleys.
you know Etienne. He worked
Do
at
I?
Simply. Yeah,
Oh,
he's one
I,
of
I
the guys.
honestly I only remember you and the guy who hired me, and
And then this fucking guy, this is Ryan. He worked at Simply too. He was one
yeah,
of
yeah,
our.
oh yeah, I remember him actually. He actually became quite an interesting photographer. He started to
He's a
do
fantastic shot.
actual like modeling and modeling shots and whatever you want to call that stuff. I'm terrible at what the genres are called. But
I
yeah,
kind
I've
of
got
like.
some Raleigh that I can't wait to try out here.
Yeah, those are good too.
And this one, I don't know what I'm going to do with this.
Put it on a tripod.
Yeah, I guess, but I mean, wow, 25 ISO.
If anyone wants to check out Alan's stuff, his Instagram is ALAINASAFFEL. And yeah, it looks
Yeah,
like
he's enjoying life in Thailand, and he's another kind of former journalist who busted into like the commercial copywriting and SEO stuff for a while, and he's been he's realizing his dream. He finally sold his house and moved to Thailand with his wife, and they're starting to make stuff, which is pretty cool.
that's very cool.
Yeah, so when it comes to things like story and photo, though, that kind of bugs me, um, because I don't know. You see a lot of stuff like the Instagram, and I don't mean like the film Instagram community or anything like that, but there's quite a trope, where it's like the young attractive person, nothing against young attractive people, um, with their back to the camera, staring out at some really nice looking landscape, and it's a middle quality shot, right? The idea is it's just look at this attractive person in nature, and then I wonder what coat they're wearing because I would like that coat so I could look attractive and young and or whatever, right? And then people are like, what a story. What is the story? They pulled over and stood in front of something right off the highway while their Instagram husband, I guess is what they're called, um,
Yeah,
Instagram partner, because it could be anybody, um, snaps a shot of them, and then they dress it up and throw it out there and hope to be seen as an influencer. And it's like too many people go, well, that's a story. No, it's not. That's a catalog shot. That
yeah,
that's they. There's nothing wrong with catalogs and commercial photography, but let's these people emulate that stuff and see some aesthetic in it. I see some really nice catalog photography, and they want to do that, and that's fair enough. But let's not call that a story. It's
no,
it's like a Peter McKinnon vlog is not a film. It's It's a guy making slow motion coffee and then talking about rich guy stuff,
Well,
you know,
like,
and fair enough, like do what you want to do, but I mean, be honest about it, you know?
yeah, and like, good for him for being successful, but
Yeah,
um,
for sure.
it's always more interesting when there's a story to the photos, and like, um, one photographer I really like for that kind of thing is Deanna Templeton and Ed, like both of them, Ed and Deanna both have these
Is
like
Ed the old GNS skateboarder?
toy machine. He's the
Because
guy
I
that
think Ed Templeton used to be, well, in like the 80s.
like
Is
he
he an
owns
old school skater?
he's an old school skater,
Right
and
on. Yeah.
he owns Toy Machine. He lives out in
Yeah.
Huntington Beach, which I was
Before
kind of
that.
like, I was a little miffed about when we went down to the Film Padea in San Clemente. We stopped in Huntington, but we didn't go to the pier because they thought it was too busy to go to the pier, so we just like hit the road. And then when I met Grant Britton, he was like, "Oh, you should have gone to the pier. You probably would have ran into Ed there." And I was just like, "Oh, son of a bitch! Like so close. Like, like got a chance
Man,
to
I'd
chat
love to
with."
run into some of those old skaters. I used
But
to idolize so many of those guys. Anyway, sorry.
I picked up Deanna's book recently. She put a book out called What She Said.
Oh, look at the crimped hair. This from the
Yeah,
80s, that shot?
it's totally from the 80s.
Sweet.
It's still available on her Instagram. I think there's copies of it left. But
Link
it's
down
just
below.
a really been really cool to look at. It's got like her writings in it from like when she was younger and little like drawings and stuff. But then also like the pictures just have like really interesting, like they kind of draw you in. Like this one's like what's up there, like it's.
Oh yeah, I love photo books like that have some kind of blurb.
And then just like great portraits too. Like her portraits are amazing. Like they just like they're it's not just the like, hey, look pretty for the photo. Like there's like like maybe it's like, you're taking my photo again, like come on or something.
Yeah, if that wasn't a friend or somebody posing, that's the split second before the annoyed look again. It's funny.
Yeah, and it's an interesting book. Like I'm glad I scored a copy of it. Um, but I like stuff like this. Like it's just interesting. Um, I've also oh nice.
Look at that busted frame. Look at that corner. Those corners.
Yeah,
It's a little blown out.
I love how it does that sometimes though.
I've got another Instagram account called Busted Frames where it's Polaroids that didn't turn out 100%. I'm going to throw that up there. But I've noticed with these One Step Plus, some of these are just overexposing stuff. And Sweet Lou Photography just had a video about that.
Oh really?
And I was my photo's a bit and then my first shot after watching that video is this totally. I mean, it's a tough one, I guess, but
well, yeah, it depends on like where, like, because you don't know where it's metering all the time either.
Yeah, I always assume it's center weighted, but like if it were the whole thing, then it's got my monitor in the background and a light over there. Who knows what it's doing? But whatever. It seems to work better out in daylight than some janky dusk pics.
Yeah.
So
there was one other book though that I'm excited to get in here. I just can't fucking remember.
Is it Jason Lee's Ferries book or
The
whatever? The book on when he was on that ferry or whatever? What was that?
Oh, the Galveston book, that's still pending. That's supposed to be coming like any time now. It got pushed back for some reason.
Sorry, hang on 2 seconds. I'll be right back. Look for the book. I'll be right back. This would be a great time for a word from your sponsor, Squarespace.
If you want to make a website that'll tickle your balls, go to GoDaddy.com because we just don't have time for Squarespace on this channel. No offense to the people that Squarespace sponsors. I'm glad that Squarespace helps people out there, and a lot of them make some really great content. But yeah, I don't use GoDaddy. I actually use One and One. Been using them for a long time. I like One and One. They're decent. And then for my actual website, not only my website, but also Northern Film Collective, which I help Becca shoots film with, we use format.com, which is similar to Squarespace, but I chose to use them because they're a Canadian company. And, being someone who lives in Canada, I wanted to support a Canadian business. So, yeah, it's kind of fun.
Hey, sorry, I just thought I heard one of my millions of kids crying.
Oh, no worries, man. The book was Greg Hunt's book, the one that Jason's releasing, called 20th Century Summer. And
so the film photographic.
Yeah, so it's being released under film photographic, and it's all this like old skate photography that Greg Hunt had shot from like the 90s and stuff. And
that'd be sweet.
It looks really cool. Like, I'm pretty stoked. Like, it just shipped, so it'll be here like any day now. But I kind of like dig those old like old skate stuff. Like, I love seeing Grant's work, and Grant's got a book coming soon too that I can't wait to order. And then I got this book a while back.
Your screen froze right on your plumber butt.
Right on what?
Right on your plumber butt as you're pulling your pants up.
Oh.
I was like, I should have been way, way quicker on the screenshot on this thing. But
yeah, like I love like skate photo books because they're really interesting. Like, I find skate photography like really inspiring. And
me too. I love that. That's my youth. Skateboarding was my life.
Yeah, and so this was a really cool book that I had to like. This was a pain in the ass to get because they wouldn't ship it to fucking Canada. So I had to get
Darn communist country.
I know, right? I had to get it shipped to Armand at the Camera Exchange in Denton, and then he shipped it up for me because it was like a limited run too. There wasn't many of them, but it was the partnership between Blackback Photo and Josh Callis, like, because they came up together, and it was like put out by DC, so it's got like the embossed DC logo on the back there, and it's all
sweet.
Like, it's got their names there, but it's like 30 years of skateboarding, and it's just really cool. The story of like them coming up together, and it just has like these like really cool like photos of them coming up in all the different places. Some really great stuff in here. Like,
now that's a story. That's a story, right? Because that stuff documents a scene that I grew up in my satellite version of it, in a small logging town. And I would occasionally interface with bigger parts of that scene when we go to Vancouver, like, the RDS guys and stuff like that. But we would get windows into that scene through all those magazines and stuff, and the skate videos and other stuff like that. So growing up, like, that stuff is, I think it was, I can't remember who the guy was, but he said, it's important to know people when you were young because they're that tie back to that time. When you don't have that around you all the time, that's what this stuff is good for. And that's why it's so evocative. Like, it really awakens like old stuff in you. And part of it's sad, but part of it's awesome.
There's so much cool stuff. Like, I bet you can't guess who this photo was inspired by at all. Check that out.
Oh wow.
Like,
nice. The guy's got a strobe in the background somewhere.
Yeah, I kind of feel like
or even if they didn't have strobes, it was just a street light somewhere.
No, I think it's a strobe because like here's another one where it's like
that that's an
I
odd
feel
place
like
for
though
Leica.
there's a little bit of like, maybe someone was trying to channel a little bit of Grant Britain there. But like
That kind of stuff almost would, like, if it weren't for like the artificial light, it would, some of that stuff when you see it, it reminds you of, the Henri Cartier-Bresson
yeah,
type stuff,
look,
but
like look at this one. That's a fucking wicked scene.
what is he, board sliding the trunk?
Yeah, I think it's a fucking cop car or something. And he's like
Yeah, that
board
looks like a Crown
sliding.
Victoria or something.
Yeah, he's board sliding the trunk of a Crown Vic, and I'm guessing this is New York because it looks like it's under the train there.
Yeah,
Um,
he's either just about to land a board slide for the last bit, or he's hauling up onto the trunk. Like, wow. And if
no,
that's a cop car, wow,
it is a cop car. It's got like a cop sticker on the back of it.
that's hilarious.
Yeah, I love these kind of books because it's just like I remember looking at like the old, oh man, like pushing across the Bay Bridge. Like look at that shot. Like
Yeah, it's funny because it's like skid culture compared to, what everybody hated skateboarding at the time, but that's a fine art shot.
it is. And like that was the thing that was wild too. So when I interviewed Grant, he was the very first person who had been like, "Do you want me to send you some like pictures of my work to share?" And I was like, "Yeah, I guess." Like no no one's ever asked that before, and I've never thought about putting in people's photos so that like, people could take a look at someone's work before they come listen to them. And Grant sent me like this 500 meg zip file of like a ton, and he's like, "Now don't share this with anyone because like I make money off of this stuff." And I was like, "No, of course, like I'm not gonna."
As you start printing it out for Redbubble,
Yeah, yeah. Check out
you've
my
got an
Red
Etsy
Society.
page.
Yeah, go to Red Society, Merlin DB, and pick up some like counterfeit Grant Britain stuff. But like all of his like old school skate photos were there. Like the stuff I remember seeing in the skater mags when I was a kid, and I was just like, "Fuck, these are amazing." But then he sent a bunch of like his fine art stuff that he was working on, and that was what blew my mind. I was like, "Dude, like your skate photography is like legendary, but like this stuff is like so fucking good." Like, just years of like shooting skate has given him this like really interesting eye, and he can just see these things that other people wouldn't like think about grabbing. And like when he does that on like the black and white and stuff like that, like it's phenomenal stuff. So I'm excited for his book that he's got coming out. Like it should be out any time now.
Well, it's like news photography where I'm sure when he was first shooting skate photos, he just wanted to get a shot of the
Yeah,
subject that was clear and showed what the subject was doing, like a hand plant or, a crazy Smith grind or something. But as he got better and better and better, he would start to pay more attention, I'm sure, to other elements of the photo. Like, let me see if I can frame up this pool that looks kind of cool when the guy's going to slash a big grind or carve through this area, you know? Or let me line this up here. Yeah, stuff like that,
no, this is his book that's coming out. So it's called Push, and it's 80s skateboarding photography. It's coming out December 7th, and you can order it from Ginkgo Press, GINGKO PRESS on Instagram is their thing. Um, like that one, I'm super excited about because like it'll just be so like it's so cool to hear about like to see those photos, but like hearing the stories
I
are
love the
cool.
stories.
And like that was one thing that super bummed me out when I was interviewing Jason at this like for the first episode of this year. He was on an Instagram break, so we didn't get a chance to talk through Instagram. So I had to like set up this like janky Zoom shit, um, which just it was kind of annoying because like when Instagram did the update, you could go over an hour. And so I didn't think about there being an hour limit anymore because when I was doing it through a mobile device, there's no limit. But when I was interviewing Jason and he wasn't on the grams, I had to do this like janky, like I fucking had him on a Zoom, and then I was like using Stream On and like some other shit to like, port the Zoom on my computer onto the fucking Instagram. And when you were using the Stream On thing, it had an hour limit, and I didn't know that was a thing. So it's like we were chatting, and luckily, like it cut off at a natural pause when we were chatting. Like I asked him a question about the Del Mar skate ranch, and he was like pausing to think about it. And I was so bummed that the recording stopped there, because we ended up talking for like another like half hour, 40 minutes or something. But he was talking about what it was like to skate at the Del Mar skate ranch back in the day. And I asked him like if Grant had ever taken photos of him back then, and he's like, no, like he was just getting started back then. But he was like, but I remember seeing Tony Hawk there, and it's like, holy shit, that's fucking Tony Hawk. And he's like all like dressed up in this goofy ass 80s shit. Just like,
yeah, like the neon Bones Brigade long sleeve with the...
Yeah. And they were like, why is Tony Hawk wearing that stuff? But he was just like in awe of like, he's like, man, like that's Tony, like that's so cool. And I was like, this is really interesting for me sitting here listening to you, like a skateboard legend yourself, being like, wow, Tony Hawk.
Heroes with heroes,
Yeah, like it was.
But look at what Jeffrey said here, Jeffrey Philman. This is exactly the kind of photography that's most inspiring. Documenting a certain time and place and subject, but having a personal connection to it. And that's 100% right. Because, and the best out of that stuff is the stuff that can interest people who aren't even necessarily ever part of that or interested in it. Like there's been, like I can't name something right now, but there's been stuff that I remember seeing going, this is so great, and these stories are so great. I had nothing to do with that ever, and this was never my interest, but wow, that really drew me in. So it's so interesting when you have something to tie it in, that like you get a book and it's all a bunch of photos, and sometimes it's just about the personality who shot the photos. But you get a book and it's full of photos, and sometimes there's little glimpses into what it was like for that person, and you get really stoked on it. Makes you want to go out and do stuff like that. Just even looking and talking about that Grant Pertain book, what was I doing in the 80s and 90s? Why wasn't I shooting photos of skateboarders? Because there's some guys that, like Matt Berger out of Kamloops, like the guy went to like the Olympics. There's other guys that did really well in skateboarding and stuff like that. And it's just like, oh my gosh, what? I guess I was too busy being a drunk and part of the scene, as I have.
And like I feel the same way too, because like, I look back and you were talking about like, capturing those people when you were younger kind of thing. And like, I wish I had more photos from like when I was in high school and stuff like that. I wish I had like taken the opportunity to get into the dark room, because like my friend Dawn, she was like, she was part of the yearbook committee only because she wanted to use the dark room. Like that was her only reason to like be part of that. And I was just like, nerds. But then I looked
valid.
Like, why wasn't I shooting? Like, there's so many moments that I wish I had a camera for it. There's people that I'm kind of like, I have like this little sort of grip on that I kind of remember, but it's just like that memory is going away, and I wish there was photos of it. And that's like one of the biggest things that drives me to take photos now, is my memory was already getting bad before the car accident. And since the car accident, it's been even worse. And I'm like completely terrified of the thought of like forgetting about people that really matter to me, or things that are important to me, which is why I shoot so much. Like, you say I post a lot on the grams. It's like, you should see how much I fucking make, though.
I can imagine.
It's
well, when you tell me what you spend on developing, we're seeing a fraction of it on Instagram.
It's a tiny fraction.
And it's interesting because when you post on Instagram, you're not saving bangers and only trying to post bangers. You're posting interesting stuff that you think somebody else might have a laugh at. Like recently, those couple little things that look like faces but are pipes or something.
Yeah, the
And
googly eye.
yeah, or you see some interesting message on a graffiti wall or something like that, and you post like you're not trying to hit some artistic excellence with it. You're just trying to share something kind of interesting, right? So, and then, like I said, interspersed with those, then you get that Mocha only shot most recently. That's just this gem right there, you know?
So Brian, I don't know if you remember Brian, but there's this dude Brian that we worked with at Simply, he's a sweet old man and I love him to death. But a few years back, when I started sharing more of my photos, he sent me this message out of the blue, being like, "You have a really fucked up way that you see the world, and I'm glad that you share it with us." I don't know if that's a compliment or a diss, but I'm like, I'm gonna take that as a compliment. And
yeah, whatever. Somebody's thinking about you. Take it.
Well, yeah, like
Wow.
I don't really care about the likes. I don't care about the engagement. So I'm not like, trying to post bangers all the time and get those likes and get, all the comments and shit and whatnot. Like, I like posting things that I like, and that's
That's what
something
it should be.
well, it's
Otherwise, we
something.
become this personality free zone where everybody just tries to
Well,
replicate what everybody else is doing. Like all the Instagrammers rushing out to do the same thing over and over again.
that's what it should be, 100%. Yeah, and like, the person that really shifted my mind about that was actually Mocha only. Um, it was interesting getting to know him because skateboarding was the tie with that. Um, Years back, he posted on Instagram one of his Skull Skates boards that like he did a collab board with Skull Skates, and he was selling a couple, and I sent him a message being like, "Hey, like, do you have any left? Like, come grab one." He's like, "Yeah, one left." He's like, "Meet me at the Tim Hortons by there you go." He's like, "Meet me by the Tim Hortons."
Let's talk Skull Skates.
Yeah. Um, he well, yeah, and I've got like the PD's Hot Shop there on
Yep.
repping on the back of the phone. Um, yeah, he's like, "Meet me at the Tim Hortons over here," and so I was like, "Okay." So I go meet him at this Tim Hortons, and I get there, and he's like, "You should grab a cup of coffee," because in my mind, I thought like, I'm gonna meet this dude. He wants it to be in a public place because, like, he probably doesn't want to deal with weirdos or whatever. And it's just gonna be like, "Oh, holy shit, you're Mocha," and I'm gonna buy a thing, and okay, bye, and like, here's money, and now I have skateboard. Um, and I thought that's how it was gonna go down. And he's like, "No, you should buy a cup of coffee." And I was like, "What?" And he's like, "Just get a fucking cup of coffee." It's like, okay. And we ended up like chatting a bunch just about like everything, like hip hop, skateboarding, life. Um, and we've hung out a bunch over the years, and like he's become a really good friend. And he was talking about his music one time we were hanging out, and how he likes to make music that he likes. He's not worried about making music that other people like. He's like, I make shit that I want to groove out to, and if other people dig it, cool. If they don't, whatever. I still like it. And that kind of stuck with me because I was like, I was struggling for a while there of like, how am I going to get pictures that people like? And I want to get all the likes, and I want people to like dig me, and I want my follower count to go up and shit like that. And it was kind of driving me crazy because I was just like, my stuff sucks. It's terrible. No one likes it. But then after he mentioned that to me, it kind of like, it steeped in my mind a little bit. And I was like, you know what? I just want to make pictures that I like. And like, I want to share the things that I like, or the things that make me feel something, because maybe it'll make someone else feel something. Maybe it'll make someone else think, or they'll connect with it. And, it's not going to get like 1,000 likes or anything, but even if it gets one, that's enough. Like, it's,
Yeah. even if it gets you that one connection with somebody, that's enough. The problem is, and I'm not trying to bag on anybody who's popular on Instagram for sure, because there are some people that certainly just deserve it. Their work is really great and it has a universal appeal. And that's not meant to say that it's not artistic or any of that. That's all just like jealous people who didn't get their arts grant, whatever. But a lot of stuff boils down to a lot of interesting marketing and networking and other things that you got to do. And there's all sorts of psychology, like, oh, I really like this photo, but there isn't 20,000 followers on their account, so I don't want to like it because I'm afraid that if I look like I like this, I like crap or something. There's so many weird things going on. And for instance, the most viewed photo of mine of all time is a phone picture I shot of a Best Buy with an amazing sunset behind it. And it's on Google Maps, and it has 2 million views.
Holy shit, dude.
I would love that kind of traction on the photos I actually think are good. I snapped this as I walked in and went, wow, what a sky. Here, let me see if I can pull it up. I threw it up on Twitter again to have a laugh. And people, here, oh my gosh. Let me flip the camera, see if it'll... See that?
Yeah.
That is like almost 2 million views. That's hilarious. That's my artistic life boiled down to one shot. It's something that makes Best Buy look good. And I snapped it with a Google Pixel. I've waited years for that kind of sunset over something nice, like a skyline or a mountain. What does it show up over? A place that's like out of Nintendo Switches.
You know what is my most popular picture?
You and Jason Lee?
Jason Lee. For the episode that I did with him. But my next most popular picture, which I'm kind of stoked about this, is Mr. Ferdinand Belland.
Oh, Ferdy. How's he doing? Is he still playing with...
He's still playing for Biff, and he is working hard at rebuilding the Armand Theater. So for people that are new to the chat and haven't listened to other episodes, Ferdy Belland is a man who made a massive difference in my life. And, I've known him since I was a kid. He used to be my bass teacher back in the day, and a lot of what shaped me into the person I am started with things that I learned when I met Ferdy. And yeah, he's just always been a beacon of like community, and he just always has like an open ear for people, and he's just a really amazing dude. And he lives in Cranbrook, which is not far from where I grew up in Kimberley. And for ages now, he's been like trying to convince the city or like other people to take this old movie theater in Cranbrook called the Armand Theater and turn it into like a cultural center, like a cultural hub kind of thing. And they had a couple close brushes where they almost made it happen, but like, things would always come up and just sort of like, quash it in the end. But then finally, like, like he ended up doing trades for a while. He's a Red Seal carpenter, and he's got a couple of other friends that worked in trades. And
Red Seal for life.
Yeah,
I'm an electrician, by the way.
They all did really well, and so they decided, you know what, like, we're
I know such
where he grew up, and like, let's reinvest in our town. And so they ponied up and bought the Armand Theater, and it turned into a COVID project, which COVID in a weird way worked out well for them because they wanted to build a music venue, but they needed time to build it, and COVID gave them all the time.
Here's some time.
Yeah,
that's the thing. Like people enjoy this kind of success and progress because they're already poised to do something.
Yeah.
People say, "Oh, how lucky." It's like, yeah, maybe it's a bit luck, but there's also you're already out there taking pictures of some rare phenomenon in a storm. You're out there all the time. It's not so much luck as you are putting yourself in a position to take advantage of stuff when it happens,
Well,
right?
it's a bit of luck, but it's also like
A bit.
wanting to be in the right place too. So, like, I'm there's a part of me that really wants to move back to Cranbrook, from what I've what I've seen when I've been back, like what not only Ferdy is building, but like other people that he knows are building there. Where there's all these people who left, Dinktown, as it was called at one time.
Dinktown.
Yeah, that's some people call Cranbrook Dinktown. We used to call it Cranhole when we were in Kimberley because there's this whole Cranbrook Kimberley rivalry kind of thing. But I mean, they had a McDonald's and we didn't, so they were definitely better than we were. Um, we just had an A&W. That was it. Like
Oh man, that's like luxury McDonald's though.
it's luxury McDonald's, but I mean, you can only have so many fucking Papa burgers before you get kind of sick of it. And it's a cheeseburger hits different. And I grew up in the era when you could buy the 50-cent cheeseburger. It was the 35-cent hamburger and the 50-cent cheeseburger. And
Yeah, well, and then they had some 69-cent menu and then the dollar menu.
yeah, yeah, it was like that was a good time. But there's all these people who like escaped Dinktown because they were just like, oh, this place sucks and I want to get out of there. And they went out and they became successful in their own rights and decided, something's missing in like where they were, and they wanted to go back home. And they were just like, man, this place still kind of sucks. But then they were like, but I can do something about it now. I'm in a position where it's like I could make this place be the kind of place I want to live in. And so there's all these really cool projects that are happening in Cranbrook now, where like the grounds of the old Tudor House pub that we walked around on,
Yeah.
that has been purchased and is going to be turned into affordable housing, rentals only, not for sale. So it's going to be affordable rentals, and they're going to integrate that brick building that's still on the grounds there, that has like the Knights Hall parking sign on it. They're going to integrate that into the housing project, so that it'll be retained and like kind of be like the centerpiece for it. And then they also bought the trailer park across the street, and they're going to put more affordable rentals there too, which is something Cranbrook needs because they have like a zero, like less, like it's like negative vacancy rate right now. Like there's people living in their cars in Cranbrook and like going to the Y to shower. They have jobs and everything. They just can't find a place to fucking live.
It's ridiculous.
It's kind of insane. So it's like, there's that project going on. Some other people bought the bowling alley there and they're turning it into like a bowling brew pub where they're going to have like 5-pin and 10-pin bowling. There's the Armand Theater project is going on there. There's like all these really interesting things that are going on that are like bringing like hope back to that place. But
I think
also,
more people should do that.
more people
Move
should.
back to their hometowns or somewhere small or something like that.
Well, it's kind of cool because like these people left and they like gained this experience and they got resources and decided they wanted to make a difference. And so I think that's pretty cool. And so yeah, I'm glad that like my number 2 most popular photo is Ferdy. My third one's a picture of me wearing my friend Brian's shirt. Brian
is that the F5?
That's the F5. Brian's my brother from another mother in Elgin.
Hang on. Sorry, hang on 2 seconds. Do we have like a bumper screen we could put up for 2 seconds? I just got to take off for a second.
A bumper screen? There's no bumper screen.
Yeah, you ever see those in like TV where it's like, we'll be right back, like, no.
After these messages, we'll be right
Okay, sing that for like 10 seconds. I'll be right back. Sorry.
You shouldn't move back to Prince George, Alan. You definitely
What?
shouldn't do that. No, fuck off. You go away. You go do your thing.
Okay, now you're going to tell people about stuff that I have to actually watch the rerun to see how bad you slagged me. Okay, got it.
Yeah, exactly. I'm totally going to slag you. I'm just catching up on the Yeah, thank you, Alan. I'm glad you liked the posts that I put on Instagram. And then Jeffrey says, I just saw a good meme about that exact thing today. Best sunsets are over top of a grocery store and never over a landscape. That's really true. Um, yeah, I wouldn't recommend Prince George. I mean, Prince George is a weird spot. So, um, I lived in Prince George for 5 years, my ex-wife and I. And I think the only reason we survived Prince George for that long was we spent a year in Tumbler Ridge before we moved to Prince George. So both of us lived in the Lower Mainland, and because of work stuff, I ended up having to move out to Tumbler Ridge to work for a coal mine, which is a very weird experience working in a coal mine. That was a completely different world. But it was a really weird place to live because to go grocery shopping, like it's a couple hour drive to go to like the next closest town to buy groceries that wouldn't go rotten within a few days because the grocery store that we had in Tumbler Ridge was kind of sketchy. But after a year there, we were like, we need to get the fuck out of here. And I got a job with Northern Health in Prince George. And I think if we had moved straight from Vancouver to Prince George, we wouldn't have liked it at all. But because we spent that year in like this weird drunken isolation bubble where it's like all we did was like work, drink, and play golf. Because we had that year there, Prince George seemed like a fucking cultural mecca. It was like, holy shit, we have a Costco and a Walmart and like restaurants that are open until like 10, 11 o'clock, and you don't have to drive a couple hours to get groceries. And yeah, it wasn't a terrible experience. It's kind of a beautiful place. If you go out towards like Smithers, like if you're ever in British Columbia and you want to go for a really beautiful drive and you have some time, drive out towards Prince Rupert, and that whole patch out there, like going through Smithers, getting Kitimat is kind of boring and depressing. It's like, I kind of feel like it's what Soviet Russia might look like a little bit. It was just a really sad place. But Smithers is absolutely fucking beautiful. Terrace, also great. And some of the best Mexican food I had when I was living in northern BC was actually in Terrace, which was really weird.
We almost bought a house in Stewart.
Fucking Stewart is a weird place. So Stewart disappears from the internet in the world regularly because of weather patterns. And it was really frustrating dealing with the doctors there because they're like, why does the fucking internet go away? Make the internet stay. And it's just like, bro, we can't.
The fog.
Yeah. It's like
the fog and cloud is just too much for it.
Yeah. And it cuts off Smithers. But yeah, that whole area.
That Masonic
really...
Hall. Oh, it's beautiful. That Masonic Hall was like $30,000. We were going to consider turning it into a house, but when we had a house inspector go look at it, they found the bottom was all flooded. Like it was built on top of a submerged creek, so we ended up in this church instead, which is crazy.
Have you figured out a name for your religion yet?
No, I think we're not gonna contribute. The world already has a few. We don't need to make any more. But yeah, we so lucked out. This place is cheaper than a Fuji GFX system. Yeah, but here's the thing that's wild though. Like, if you start a religion, think of the tax breaks. I'm sorry, I'm gonna suffer like Socrates, and in order to be ethical, because I'm so high-minded. I won't. I don't feel I could fake something like that just so I benefit. Like that's just. But it's like, if I really thought I had something to offer and part of the benefit was, tax-free status, okay, whatever. But, who could do that? Religious people. Well, I guess some people do. But, some of them honestly think they have something to offer, and some of them know that they're snake oil. But don't for whatever it's worth.
don't priests count as like diplomats too? Like, couldn't you could go around and be like diplomatic immunity?
Yes, diplomatic immunity. Hold up some bunk ID. No. Yeah, Caroline. No thanks, Ellen. Although it is like really near some nice stuff. But I don't know. Like, whatever. It's
I'm glad.
we bought this place and got it converted to residential, and boom, we got the tax bill right for the rest of the year. Whatever. We're it's nice to kind of contribute to a small community that's shrinking, and we're losing one of the industries here soon. But yeah, this place is great. I just can't wait to somehow finish the renos. Oh my gosh.
I can't wait to move in with you guys.
Yeah, move in. There's some nice places in town. You can. It's 7,000 square feet, but I have 10 people in here, so.
I mean, there's room for one more.
Yeah, maybe. Whatever. What was I going to say? Oh yeah, I was going to just say, we did, Alan. It was because there's 380 people here, something like that, and we were a few percent at least.
380 people.
Yeah. Here is my most popular Instagram photo.
I like that one. I think
I shot that with the D70 17 years ago.
I used that in your... Did I use that in your
I think so, probably, because I only have about 30 photos on there now. I called so many of them.
I didn't use that one. I used one that you did of Edmonton.
Yeah, I take a lot of shots of the moon and the sky. I'm getting a little bored of it. Well, not bored, but I kind of want to... Like, if you go... Let me see if I can find it here. There's this one. Well, actually, I really like this shot of you.
Which one? Oh, yeah. I like that shot of you, too. And then I had to, like, put that one where you were, like, palming the fire hydrant, because I kind of like that one, too.
Yeah, I was just leaning all cash, and then I saw you starting to take a picture, so I tried to look all Sears catalog. Yeah. I like that one, though. That was XP2.
XC2 is such a great film.
And then what else do I got here?
People shit on it, but like it doesn't deserve it. It's
I really like this shot, even though, well, let's get back there.
That's a cool one.
It's a little blown out on the Instagram, but
just like my butthole capitalism.
You're such a wacko. But I'm starting to want to take more pictures of people. Like, I ran across these two gents trying to do a profile pic, and they saw me looking at them, and I just, as soon as he started laughing, I put my camera up and took a shot.
Was it you and I that had the idea for like professional dick pics?
Probably not.
Fuck.
And I like that one too.
That just reminded me of that idea.
I got so sick of photos with people in them because of news. Because that's all my news photography was. And I retreated in still life or whatever, the natural world or things without people. But then I started to remember that, it's really hard to make those kind of photos work without people in them, because there's almost no story. You don't have story without people. Like if a tree falls in a forest and nobody hears it, does it fall? Did it happen? Whatever. Without people, it's really difficult to get a story. But with people, some people think it's really easy to get a story, and they make those Instagram shots that suck. But some of my more recent photos have been trying to get more people into it. And like I say, I overdid it with news because it was nothing but people all the time, with big giant checks and shaking hands and crap like that. But now I'm interested in it again.
Well, it's good you're interested because you take great photos.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah. And you're also a fantastic road trip pal. I miss road trips with you. I wish...
road trips are fun. We should go to Cranbrook.
We should. I would love to go to
Exactly,
Vancouver.
Alan. Grip and grin.
Um,
Grip and grin kills photography.
when we went to like when you helped me move to Toronto, I wished I was shooting
Helped you.
at
I just
this.
hung out and
Well, no, like you were fine because like I did all the driving, which I was totally cool with because like I was gonna do it anyways. It was just nice to have the company, but like
oh, I guess I should have
I
offered to drive. Sorry, man.
no, it was fine. I'm weird about that with my car. I don't like other people driving my car.
Fair enough.
Um,
That was a great trip. Thanks for bringing me on that, though. By
but
the way.
yeah, no problem. It was great to have you. Yeah, I'm weird about like there's this like this person that I used to be friends with, but I had to block them because they were just like I couldn't even have a conversation about why we couldn't be friends anymore. It was just like no. But I was getting into my car one time and we were gonna go somewhere, and like I opened my car door and then she sits in the driver's seat and is like, "Give me the keys," and I was like, "What? No." And she's
Didn't
like,
I
"Well, I
give
want
you
to
a
drive."
virtual restraining order?
She's like, "Well, I want to drive," and I'm like, "That's cool, but you're not fucking driving my car. Like, get out of the fucking seat." Um, but yeah, I wish like when we took that road. So for people that may not know, when I moved to Toronto in 2017, um, Chris saw a video that I posted on my Facebook of me practicing driving with a trailer because I was moving to Toronto with all my shit in the back of the trailer, and like he sent me a message being like, "You go to Toronto? Can I has ride?" Like you can has ride. And so he came with me and we drove across the country. But unfortunately, for my photography practice, I hadn't started getting back into photography until I got into Toronto. So I kind of like I look back at that trip as like a bit of a missed opportunity for because there's some like there could have been some really cool shots there. But I'm glad we took all those stupid videos in the car. Like that was a lot
Yeah,
of fun.
that's the
Yeah.
thing. Like, you can regret not taking certain videos or taking photos or taking opportunities. But how many times have you been somewhere and just, you know what? I just want to enjoy this and not try to capture it with a camera. You
You
know, I just want to
sometimes
enjoy this.
sometimes you just gotta framp it.
Sometimes you just gotta framp it. You just gotta wagoosh.
Yeah, you just gotta
Uh,
take it all
if you
like
ever want
just
a weird road trip cross Canada and just look at all the weird names for stuff, it's basically it's all settler interpretations of some sort of First Nations Indigenous title to some area, and it doesn't work with English very well,
no, it doesn't. Yeah, like
but
it's
it's
I
fun.
didn't start getting into photography again until I got to Toronto. So it was
I remember bugging you because you took quite a hiatus because all your stuff was still in Kamloops.
yeah. Well, I mean, like there was like stuff around it where like I stopped shooting for a while just because of my life situation and um I I miss shooting because like I for reasons I ended up selling you most of my gear at one point. I think like
Yeah, I
you
think I
bought
bought some flash and stuff and
yeah you
a
bought my
slave
flash
cable and other things
yeah you bought like my because
and a
I had the
50
Dinktown
mil.
yeah because I had a couple like Nikon flashes and lenses
Yeah.
and you bought that and I was allowed to keep the D70 and the kit lens uh, but
You were allowed? By
yeah
whom? Okay, never mind. I can kind of figure that out.
but
Yeah, but photography for you, sorry, I remember the way you described carrying around a camera and it was like your safety blanket.
well yeah it kind of turned into that when I was in Toronto um, when I shot in the 2000s I also carried my camera around all the time then and it was like obnoxious when I carried it around back then because like that was a huge investment. Like I bought that brand new D70 and I was worried about it. So I had this like little low pro bag that I would like carry everywhere with it in. And I had all these like stupid buttons on the strap of like all these like bands I saw, or like, fucking
That was
stick to.
cool. I had so many of those buttons down my bomber jacket and all that
Yeah,
stuff.
I mean that was the thing back then because we're old. But yeah, I would like carry it around all the time, and even before I got the D70, like most of my stuff was shot with um, Canon PowerShot A75.
Those
That
are great cameras.
It was a great camera, yeah,
And
and
they use double A's too, I think, in the handle. So you
they
could
used double A's and compact
expensive
flash.
batteries. Yep.
They really good for night photography because you could do a few seconds of an exposure with it. So I did a lot of like time lapse, like long exposure stuff with it. Um, but I would always have it
What
in
was
my
your
pocket
name back then? What was your
and
account name?
neon
Yeah,
and
I
neon.
like that name actually, but I remember
Yeah,
this one shot you took of Kamloops. It was one of the streets and there was a puddle and there's some street lights in the background.
it's probably still on my DeviantArt. So
And I'm not sure if that was your A75 or your D70. And then a couple other shots you took of the one bridge over the river that looked really neat. And it's so different because nowadays when people take night shots of stuff like that, everything is you can see the details in everywhere. There's no shadows anymore. Everything's lit up, even though it's dark. You know, everybody wants dynamic range,
so
but it's
oh my
like,
god.
whatever happened to contrast and dark areas and stuff, you know?
So this is a little embarrassing.
Are
This
you
is
looking at your DeviantArt?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Sweet. This is going back almost 20 years, people.
This is some of my first shit that I ever did.
Now that's a story.
This is maybe 1999. Um, I would borrow the digital camera from my high school to take photos because I didn't even have a camera back then, and I thought that I was really clever to like put it inside of garbage cans and take a picture of the inside of the garbage can. I called it consumerism because I was like, you could see what people are consuming by looking in the garbage cans, man. Um,
See, not a bad idea, but the second you started to try to make it more than what it was, is where
oh,
it gets But I mean, it is interesting to see what people are throwing away, but that's
this
where
one
everybody
is,
fails, is where it's trying to make something more out of something. Take my
yeah.
hand, not my life.
This was, I miss Joe. This was me and Joe when we were doing some computer shit.
A rare
Um,
non-bearded Merlin. I like that
yeah.
cross pick, that church.
Oh, fuck off. This is my page, dick. Yeah, and like I would Photoshop them, or I think I used GIMP back then because I was like poor. Um,
Couldn't torrent it.
yeah. Well, I did have a torrented one for a while.
It was a hassle. You had to
It was,
crack stuff and
but yeah, and then I used to take like I used to take photos of like the Winamp shit, like when you're like the
me
visualization.
too. I would screenshot that. It looks so
I kind of
cool.
like them. Like I
Me
like this one because
too.
it's like a little devil guy.
Nice.
I would take pictures of like people on the street, but only if they would let me buy them food. That was the deal. I would be like,
Mm.
if I buy you food, then I get to take a picture, and they were always
Try
cool
not
with
to
that.
totally exploit, make it like a two-way thing.
Yeah.
Oh, there's
Um,
St. Andrews on the square
yeah, St.
in
Andrews on the
Kamloops.
Square. Um, I like doing these long exposures of people. Those were kind of fun.
That is kind of neat.
And this was all with an A70. This is before the D70. Um,
Wow, I gotta look at these. Yeah,
and
these are like
yeah,
what, 4 megapixel shots?
yeah,
Two
4 megapixels.
megapixels?
They were like so. And then, oh fuck, I hope it's on here. I got a picture of like the fire. Oh, and I used to love doing these like
I
long
have some
exposures
film
of.
shots of the fire.
Um, I used to love these ones. Um, but where is? I had this really great one of the fire where it's like Oh, these are some of my very first film shots. This is my little brother in the
That's
backyard
kind of
where I have.
cool.
Oops. And this is my old friend Nikki. Um, where is that one? Turned out so fucking good. I have this one in my bathroom. I printed
That's the
these.
one I was talking about with the puddle and the streetlights.
Yeah, I made a
You
series
you
of.
took you took a yeah you made like a triptych of the
Yeah,
red, yellow, green. I like that
yeah,
one.
that was a good one. It turned out nice. And that I think that was also still the A.
Isn't there a
Uh,
bridge shot nearby? That one?
yeah, somewhere there's a bridge shot. And then I'm sad about this one because like Decadent Donuts was such a good donut shop in Vancouver. Now it's like it was a megabyte pizza for a bit, and then now it's fucking gone. I don't know what
What's
it
that
is.
Scraps one? Scraps, I
Scrap
think.
where?
Top
Oh, those are
top.
just like ones I didn't like.
Oh, okay.
Oh, here it is. This is the fire one.
Yeah, I have one of those too for my house. I used to live just across the river from that.
Yeah, and I think
I've
this.
got a
Yeah,
bunch
this.
of those with my
Oh
Maxim
shit! It
5.
wasn't even an A75. It was with an A40.
Oh my gosh, you're really getting in there.
Yeah,
Oh my gosh, 10 by 8. Wow. Yeah, I've
that
still
was
got a
all.
couple shots of that fire. That same fire line as it was going south into town, well, toward town.
And this
Yeah,
is
it's cool.
this used to run Mountain High Pizza, which was one of like the best pizza joints in
Oh
town.
yeah, I knew one of the girls who worked there was brother or her brother was one of my good buddies. He was in a
Yeah,
band called the Pirates or something.
his name's Greg. I can't remember what his band was called, but they were opening for Stutterfly that night. And
Oh, I remember that band. I just remember seeing the stickers and the posters.
oh, and then this is like fucking
That's
barrier.
Barrier.
Yeah, that was uh that was a sad one. That was with A42. I guess I didn't have the D70 yet.
No, it's crazy. And there's
I think with
TRU, I
this,
think.
yeah. So this one was when I had the D70, and that was when
Where's
Decadent.
Decadent Donuts?
It's right on Granville Street, but it doesn't exist anymore. And
Mm.
this photo is kind of interesting because this is like a weird
Oh, that's not
foreshadow of
TRU.
what my life kind of became. So I was really enamored with this building. This is the Wall Center in Vancouver, and I
Yeah.
thought it was a really cool looking building. And I had no idea that well, like 10 years later, after taking this photo, I would end up basically like living out of this place most of the time when I was like traveling for work. And like it's
I did some conference there. I used to work for companies that set up conferences and concerts, and we did something there. Wacky.
yeah, yeah. I think
Darn it, what
these
was I
were
going to say? Oh, that's nice.
super
I like those
good
night
shots.
shots of camels too. Hey,
Yeah,
Yadis Photography. This guy's a good landscape photographer who just joined.
nice.
He's got
Yeah,
some
this
really
was
interesting stuff.
John Enman. That's John Enman's hand.
Oh, Enman, yeah, he had that amazing used. You walk into that guy's place, you may as well just write off 4 or 5 hours because you will talk forever with
Yeah,
that guy.
you're.
And I don't mean that in a oh my gosh bad way, because you will go down
I,
some rabbit holes with that guy.
these are still some of my favorite black and whites I've ever shot. These were at like an old abandoned building by Weyerhaeuser.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, this was with the D70, and like, oh shit, go away. I like this one where it's like
Oh,
the
that's the smoke or the pulp mill stack. Good
yeah.
old logging town memories.
Who the hell? That's not my photo. Fucking whatever, DeviantArt. Anyways, if you want to go like
Deviant
see
art. Wow. We should
embarrassed
dig through
image,
my Flickr. Oh my god.
I have a Flickr. I don't
I
like
still
it.
like Flickr.
Well, no, I don't like my Flickr because like it's just got garbage photos on it. Like I'm
Yeah.
happy with my DeviantArt
Old
photos.
stuff.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like so, yeah, it took a pause for a while, and then um, right before moving to Toronto, I was missing photography, and I bought. I was down in San Francisco on a work trip, I picked up a Canon G9X, and like I just
Those are
wanted,
not bad.
it's not bad, and I like the camera, but some dust got inside, and so it's
Now
like
it's
there's
bad.
like yeah, now it's bad, and there's no way to fix it. It's just like which pisses me off. It's because it's like the sensor just needs to be cleaned. It's like, yeah, you can't clean the sensor.
But now it's a brick. I hate that stuff because you try to fix it and it's witchcraft. You're done, right?
Yeah, it's annoying because like sometimes depending on how zoomed in or out you are, what you're shooting, you just see these like little like kind of like cloud smudges. But when I bought that camera, I just Googled. I'm like, DSLR like point and shoot. And that was the one that came up where it's like, it had like some of the best features, but it was something that was small because I was traveling, like I was doing like 340 flights a year at that point. And so it's like I wanted to take photos, but I didn't want to have to like lug around a DSLR. So I just wanted
Well, and the
something
lens
really.
collapses into the body on those. It's such a nice.
Yeah, it's super tiny. Like it's great. I mean,
I had a
now,
G4,
like,
I think,
well,
or
and now it's
G3.
honestly like my fucking iPhone 12 Pro Max takes better pictures than that G9X ever did.
I know, isn't
Um,
that sad?
it's it's kind of shameful. Like there's even times when this will take better photos than my Fuji. Like I took a photo of like this group when I was in Toronto, and I almost wished I did a photo with the iPhone because I know the iPhone photo would have been like totally perfect, but the Fuji one was a little
Hmm.
blurry because I was standing on this like stool and I wobbled a little bit, and like I took three
But
shots of
it's
them.
more computational. It's more that
Yeah,
computational stuff.
I don't know. I just got kind of pissed about it because I
I
was
I
just like,
prefer to be able to add my own adjustments rather than trust computational photography, even though, computational photography is kind of going to be the future. Whatever comes out of cell phones is going to be put into the big bodies. It's going to
yeah,
work. But I mean, stuff like, look at Alan, the EOS M was a wonderful little camera. It was super
yeah, the M
compact.
was a great camera.
If they could have just solved the problems with the smaller sensor, I still like, I feel I'm out Micro Four Thirds after hauling around Nikon gear, pro body size cameras for years. It was breaking my back. So I went and I got one of these things here. Actually, no, I got this guy. This little guy is tiny. This replaced my D2H and a D7000 and like some massive lenses. I love this thing, but it's a Micro Four Thirds sensor. There are a few cameras that have made that Micro Four Thirds sensor sing. Like there's the EM1 Mark II, and this is just some crazy 800 millimeter telephoto on it that's really cheap. And then the G9 Panasonic. But a few shots, like I have this lightning shot here that just, I was so disappointed when I was shooting this shot because of the limitations of the Micro Four Thirds sensor. It was great, but if I were to shoot that same shot with my S1 or even an APS-C like Alan's talking about, that's bigger than a Micro Four Thirds, this would have been so much easier to edit and deal with, and I think the shot itself would have come across a little better. But I'm just such an optimist for Micro Four Thirds because the form factor and size, like look at this. Okay, so this is 140 to 400 because it's got a 2 times teleconverter, and this is just a 40 mil. But like if I were to pop the similar kind of lens on this, it's going to be about half the size of this lens. But look at this. This is almost pocketable. Well, you saw this when I took it with me on the road trip. It just disappears. You don't feel this. That other one, that's like, oh my gosh. Like especially if you're getting a little older, like,
Well, and so it's kind of funny. Like, I mean, the switching to the Fujifilm stuff. Like, I bought that XT2 and immediately connected with it. I've had
mhm.
I had a Nikon D60 for or D610. I had that for a few years, and like it was a good camera. It worked well. It was nice to have a full frame
No,
digital.
it's a great camera. It's just,
Well, it's a great camera, but we never clicked. Like me and the camera, like I always just like I had it because it was like it was a full frame and I could use my lenses with it, but I never really enjoyed using it and I was never really happy with like what came out of it. I was just like, it's like okay. And then when I started using the XT2, I was like, okay, this thing is like the fucking cat's meow. Like it was like so good, and I liked it, and I was just like, I immediately enjoyed using it. The film simulations were cool. Like I tried to fuck around with film simulations on the D610, but like
no.
it wasn't really great. I ended up selling the D610 to John Enman at the camera show last month because I was just like, it's got to go. Like I don't like it. I use the Fuji almost every day. Um, I use now I have the X Pro 2, and I was just like, I don't know if I'm going to sell the XT2 or not. I might keep it for digital scanning because the one thing that I wish the X Pro had that the XT2 does is a flip out screen.
Hmm.
And if I'm going to
For your
use it,
vlogging? No, I'm kidding. Sorry.
no, not for vlogging,
I'm
for
just being
digital.
a dink.
Like when I put this on a copy stand, I don't want to have to like look down on top of it to like get the thing. Like
No,
it's nice.
it's nice to have the tilting screen at least. Yeah.
Um, so I'm gonna see how much I like doing digital scanning and if that works out better. And if it ends up being a good thing, then I might keep the XT2 just for doing that.
I'm going to keep this. I'm going to try to find some sort of film scanning adapter because it'll pop out a 50 megapixels still using high res or 80 megapixel with high res mode. So if I pop out an 80 megapixel still high res mode on a negative, that's a pretty good scan. And I don't get those weird rings that I do for my scanner
Yeah.
sometimes.
On the
So
Newton rings.
Newton rings, yeah.
Yeah.
Newton rings suck. But I mean, honestly, this is where the future should be. Like this size body, right? Because I compare that to my S1, and my S1's a monster. Like I went to Micro Four Thirds to get away from massive bodies. Why did I go for the S1? Well, because I got like $1,500 off it new from the plate because I got a deal with one of the camera stores I usually shop at. I was an early adopter for it, so the S1 is an absolutely fantastic camera. I can't imagine the only thing that I could complain about is, and this is a video thing, is the video autofocus, which isn't even that bad, but it's not like crazy. But everything else about that camera, the only thing you could ever want more is just more pixels on it, and then get an S1R, and you're good. It's such an amazing camera. I've taken shots and been able to recover like 4 stops of underexposure. It's just amazing. But those Fuji cameras, yeah, there's something to be said about whether you're like you said the 610 you just didn't want to shoot with.
Yeah, like it just
But
was
the
like
Fuji you did.
thing. Well, in the Fuji I use all the time. Like I before I had the 610, I had a D300, and when I would go traveling, I would end up taking the D300 and the DX lenses along with like my f5 and like my regular film lenses. And I would use the D300, but I kind of got frustrated like having to carry like double of everything. And so I
Yeah.
thought like getting a full frame body would make sense where it's just like, well, if I get a full frame, then all I have to pack is an extra body. I could just use the same lenses. Um, but it never really was like I just never really fell in love with it. And it was also like
No.
it felt weird. Like it's not a very small camera, but it's not a very big camera. It's just kind of like this awkward chonky little block that I never really felt was comfortable, because it was like it felt a bit more comfortable when I put a battery grip on it,
Hmm.
but then it felt weird still. Like it was more comfortable to hold, but then it got awkward because it was like a weird size now, and I don't know. I just never really.
You can't discount that kind of feeling. You can't discount
No.
that because
And it's weird to
you
say
produce.
it
Sorry,
felt weird. Well, it's weird to say it felt weird because, like, I mean, my primary driver when I shoot film is a Nikon F5, and that thing is like a fucking behemoth. Like, it's like,
but there's something
yeah,
to be said for pro bodies versus bodies with a battery grip.
yeah, there is, and like, I mean, the F5 is. I like how heavy it is because I know if I'm gonna be shooting slower shutter speeds, that I'm gonna have less shake with it. Like, I can shoot down to a 15th regularly with that and know that like it's not going to be blurry. Sometimes I could get away with a 10th and an 8th, but like, I know that like a 15th and a 30th is not a problem with that camera because like the mass just helps me. Like if I plant down somewhere, I'm
No,
not
it's
going to.
true.
I've noticed now like the X Pro 2 is lighter than the XT2, and I've noticed that like I have a lot more shaky photos with the X Pro 2 than I ever did with the X2, which honestly might lead to me probably maybe being like, fuck, the X Pro 2's got to go, and I'm going to keep the XP2 as at some point because like I get annoyed with the blurry photos, but I do like the feel of it, so I might order a grip for it to see if like the grip will add a little extra mass and make it a little more stable.
With your 610 versus the F5, what was the prism like? Like the view? Was the
Well,
view
I mean,
smaller in the 610?
it's a bit smaller on the 610. Like that's a
That
hard.
is a huge thing for me.
Well, it's like the view was good in the viewfinder, but like the F5 is always going to be king in my mind for that because it has
Because
that
it's
removable prism.
it's like
So,
IMAX versus standard
well,
definition.
yeah, it's such a bright, huge viewfinder, but I also like this removable. So it's like when I'm doing like low down shots, I can pop the prism off and just like look down and get some funkier shots with it. So like I find
That's
like
why I
for
love looking through this thing.
I find like for what I like to shoot, F5 is kind of like the ideal camera because like I can I can do so much with it. Um, and also like shooting street sometimes when you're in like grittier parts of town, it's like a little bit of extra protection too because like
You could hit somebody with it.
yeah, someone if someone gets smacked with it, they're probably gonna back the fuck off.
Yeah, they're gonna feel it. Yeah,
Yeah, they're gonna feel it like
but
it's and it'll be fine. Like you can hit someone with it and it'll still work. Like
I totally feel you though with the whole experience. There's a shooting experience. You're creating something that might give somebody an experience viewing it. Why wouldn't you feel some kind of experience creating it? If you're shooting on a camera that doesn't really do it for you, sometimes that translates as, oh, I just want something new, whatever. But you do feel, if you feel a connection to a camera because of its ease of use, or it's going to be able to perform in certain conditions and stuff like that, that's just going to help you with your output. That's going to help you make an image you're more excited about. I totally feel it if somebody were to be like, you know what, I can't, I honestly can't pick up a DSLR anymore. Like I grabbed this F100 here. This was my dream camera. Thank you for it, by the way. Merlin gave me this camera. This was my dream camera for years. This and the FM2. This is an FM2N actually, but which I need the rewind knob if you still have it somewhere.
I do. You gotta
I know,
find it.
sorry.
The
But this
worst.
thing, I can't imagine using a camera that feels like this anymore. Like even my big chunky S1 just has different ergonomics and a different feel, and totally right. This what inspires me about using this is I know this is a top tier film camera for 35 millimeter format. This isn't going to let me down.
It never will. Like the F100.
But I don't like the feel of it as much as I used to. But I know what this thing can do. Like I can shoot with this and everything's going to turn out terrific. Like it's going to be great. That's why I love it. That's what I love about that camera. I hate the way they're built now. Now that I've got this experience with stuff like this, you know, and the EM5 and all these other interesting new cameras and the stuff that's coming back to the aesthetic of this, like the ZFC and stuff like that, and even to extent that EM5, that you feel something with the equipment. And somebody might say, oh, well, that's not professional. Professional will take like a piece of crap and still make good stuff. And it's like, that's terrific. I'm not a professional. I don't need to worry about that stuff. This is an experience for me as much as it is, you know, for hopefully somebody else who views my stuff, you know. So anyway, that's my blah 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 about all that. But
no, it's a good blah blah blah. Yeah.
But yeah, it's like, look at what Alan said about the S1 and the S5. The S1, as we've seen, is this monster camera. This is a monster. Look at the size of this thing compared to this. Right? The S5 is this same camera with a little bit more in a body this big. You know? It's nuts what they're able to do today. I'd really like to get an S5 because it's got a feature called live composition, which is probably one of the best photographic innovations in the last 10 years. What it does is it just leaves the shutter open. The pixels only record a change in light values if they brighten. So you could aim it at the sky for 3 hours. It'll keep the same exposure you took of that sky unless the stars are trailing or a plane moves across or a satellite. So good for astrophotography. Absolutely amazing. You can get those beautiful star trail shots where everything looks in a circle, right? By just one shot. Whereas, you know, people trying to do that with other cameras take hundreds and hundreds of shots and then stack them together. You know,
would you have to like have it plugged into like an alternative power source for it to like that?
Every time I've done it and have gone the 3 hour limit on it, it's been either because this thing, the Olympus system has it in their higher end cameras. Battery has survived even in winter, even in -20. The battery's lasted. After a while, the screen, the display times out, and then it's just powering the sensor for collecting. So it's such a nice thing. I think I even got one of the shots here on the Instagram of it. That was just like a single shot. I might not. I don't know. Well, this one actually was that was like a half an hour using a telephoto, and that was a single shot. If you tried to do that for half an hour with a single shot for a single shot shutter speed of half an hour with an intervalometer, or you're going to blow out the whole thing.
Yeah.
When you use live composition, it takes that one exposure and locks it at that exposure. It only adds light if the pixels are brighter and change. It's seriously, if you're into, you know, it even works with studio stuff. If you were to use lights in a dark scene and just light paint, it's really cool. Anyway, blah, 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 blah. Or beer.
That's cool. So, like, when did you start getting into astrophotography?
Probably about 2019. I took a few shots of the sky at night, and it was whatever. But I ran into these photographers: Jeff Moore, Mike Isaac, Keith. Jeff. Where's Jeff? I can never. Jeff Wallace. That's his name. Keith Moore, Mike Isaac, and this amateur astronomer guy. darn it, what's his name? He's with the Royal Society of Astronomers or whatever in Edmonton. And I would bump into them when I was just taking shots of the comet. The comet is really when I started to get into it. Like here.
Oh yeah, I shared that one of yours on the post.
And then, I just kept taking more and more shots of the comet and ran into these guys in 2019. And then I started to notice other night sky phenomena. The further up north you are, it can be really bright at night, late at night. This is about 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning. And those are noctilucent clouds. Like I just started noticing there's so much interesting stuff going on at night in the sky. So I don't know. I just kind of got into it. Got into a little bit of storm photography too. But I mean, none of it is it's all, I'm just like a dabbler in that stuff. So there are people like, oh my gosh, you wouldn't believe the amount of women who are coming out with bonkers storm photography these days, because landscape photography has been a huge sausage fest for decades.
Yeah, it really has.
Alan actually was with me on one of my first real kind of attempts at astrophotography there. Like I was into it, Alan, for sure, but I took like 3 or 4 pics. But Alan and I, we were trying to take pictures of the Milky Way outside Edmonton, way out of town. And we got our first shot of it, of this rare, well, not that rare, but this almost aurora-like phenomenon called Steve. It's like solar thermal emission, whatever. And he was there when we did it, and we got some really cool stuff. I actually have it on my Instagram there. There's a little time lapse of it. But anyway, yeah, it's crazy. So I started to dig into more like the natural phenomenon, and that's where I ran into the storm photography crowd on Twitter. And there's so many. Yeah, that was on your property, Alan. It's a weird picket fence aurora looking thing. And all I wanted to do for 2019 was to try to take those kind of shots that these women were taking. Because it's weird. The guys taking the shots, like I say, are more illustrative. They're more something that would show up on like an encyclopedia illustration of a phenomenon, whereas the women were taking more of these artistic kind of shots of it. Like there were, during my whole time in photography, I've noticed when women pick up the camera, they're more develop an eye for it, whereas the guys,
yeah,
we more languish in the technical language of it, making sure our photos are sharp, making sure our photos are, that making sure we used hyperfocal distance to get every element in the foreground and background. Whereas, like that stuff certainly develops in everybody else's shots, but it seems like women pick up more of a composition and a focus on the subject, which makes it more of a better photo, even if it's not necessarily the sharpest thing right away.
Yeah, it's definitely.
Yeah, maybe we shoot with our feelings could totally explain that, as opposed to guys shooting along with some manual or something.
Stephanie has beautiful photos. If you want to see some great photos, follow Stephanie Rosie, STEPHANIE.ROSIE. We talked on the chat earlier this year. She's great.
Nice.
Yeah. Unfortunately, though, my battery is about to run out.
Yeah, my battery's about to die too, and I really got to go to the bathroom. But
yeah, I've also got to pee too. But
we should all follow everybody. Whoever appeared in the chat. My fan. I've got a fan, Alan, because I used to have like hours long coffees with this guy all the time in Edmonton. So of course he's stuck around for the whole time. So, but yeah, I'm gonna follow everybody in the chat here. So
yeah, it was great chatting with you. I miss you, man. And
we should go to everybody. I'm announcing Merlin and my new project coming out. It's mostly Merlin's, but I'm gonna help out. Basically, just by being a passenger in his car as we go. We're gonna go shoot the new book called Dinktown, which is a retrospective of Cranbrook, small town BC, the scene and what happened to it, what it means to us old aging scenesters.
Actually, that's not a bad idea. You know
It's a
what?
super great idea, and we're doing it in like 6 months.
We have to make
Kickstarter
it
will be here.
not even no. We don't need a
I'm just
Kickstarter.
I'm just
We'll
being
just
a dink.
we're gonna do it,
Dinktown. Come on.
dude. We'll shoot it this summer.
Okay,
So yeah,
Alan, sure. Yeah,
Dinktown.
no, for sure. We'll do something. All right,
Um,
sucker. Good talking to you.
but thanks for being here. Thanks everyone
Thanks for
for
having
tuning
me.
in. I love you, man. Next week I'm gonna have Tim Ryugo joining me. He's a great film photographer, and he's also been a long time Kodak guy. He's with Kodak Alaris right now, and so that should be an interesting chat with him. And yeah, stay safe out there, and I'll see you
Thanks
guys
for all
next
the
week.
hearts, Jeff.
All right, bye everybody.
Bye bye.